Hello and welcome back, and today finally we're going to do the comparison of the two big photo cataloging applications from Synology and QNAP. They've both now got an application out there for you guys to try out on your existing NAS drives and in future NAS drive purposes. Now, first and foremost, I am still doing lots of testing here with 5 or 6 NASes for a long-term backup video that I'm doing. Unfortunately, that means there is a lot of NASes on in the background, so I apologise in advance for the noise you might hear. But what I'm talking about today is these two applications. One, Synology Moments, that's been around for, I'd say, just under or around a year, and the QNAP program QMagie or Qmagie that's been around for a very short amount of time in their latest update, their new beta version of 4.4, I believe 4.4.1. Now, both of these applications are designed for you to have loads and loads of photos on your NAS and then be able to catalog them with facial recognition and AI deep learning to enable thing recognition. What that means in real terms is the ability to see things like trees, food, houses, subjects effectively, and therefore when you're searching for photos in a business or personal way, you can find photos without having to worry about using the photo name, because so many of us use mobile phones and take so many photos now that the photos are all just called IMG 604 whatever, and we can't search that way, and we need deep learning to help us to be able to search for the contents of the photo without us having to rename our thousands and thousands of photos. So maybe you've got tens of thousands of photos in a professional or personal capacity that you need to transfer over to your NAS and therefore be able to catalogue all these photos from the past, much in the way that Facebook does tagging. This is a much similar version to that, but even better, because it extends beyond just facial recognition, and also it's for your private collections on your NAS, so that's via your IP and not using the internet. Now, both of them go about it a very different way, and I am going to talk about the pros and cons of each of them. But if we make our way towards the desktop interface of both our QNAP NAS and our Synology NAS, we're going to go through exactly the difference between them. If we go for the Synology first, it's worth mentioning, if you see any lags in the recording here while on screen, that's nothing to do with the NASes, that's all to do with this PC that's using a heroic amount of the CPU and memory for the screen recording that takes place during the course of this video using popular software OBS. That's carrying on there in the background. So with the Synology application, you would need to go to the package center, in there find Synology Moments, install the Synology Moments application, then make your way into the control panel. From the control panel, go to the indexing service and enable the indexing and the searching of the Synology Moments app to go through your folders. It's also worth mentioning that for the most part, and I know this has been something a number of you, including me, have complained about, for the photos to be sequenced by the Synology Moments application, there is a workaround, but for the most part, all the photos have to be in a particular folder, and that's within the Synology Moments and Drive folder, so here. And if you don't have the files in that directory, then they won't be indexed and you won't be able to access them via Synology's Moment application. Once again, there are workarounds to not have to do this, but for the most part, including Synology's own website and a number of places, they recommend that you make a complete copy or move the directory to this folder. And again, not great for a number of you, I know that, because what if your photos are in, 4, 5, 6, 10 terabytes of photos? But nevertheless, this is the way it is at the moment. Once you've done that, click apply. So we'll come out of that anyway, because I've already done it. And for QNAP, the way to index photos is ever so slightly different. What they've done, rather than add it to the control panel, they've released a new application called Multimedia Console. And from here, this is your one portal access point to enable all the sequencing, the streaming, the searching, the indexing, the thumbnails, the transcoding of your NAS, but all within a single access software, Multimedia Console. From here, you can go to the indexing tab, and it will allow you to begin indexing all of your photos. But where's all the media going to live? Well, I'm pleased to say that unlike Synology Moments, QMagie will let you be completely customizable about the folders that all of the different applications on your NAS will pull the media and index the media from. So from here, if we click edit, I've enabled it that QMagie on the QNAP searches for these folders. So I've got all my photos already in the multimedia tab here, but I've got it searching everything. So searching all of my videos, all of my photos that I've taken for work, photos I've done for myself personally, this, and of course the photos from Taiwan and Hong Kong when I was in the Computex Expo. So right now it's searching all of those folders underneath, but you can go all the way down and break it down into individual folders if you so choose. So you can go, I only want you to search this folder and not the others. As well as that, you can create restricted and excluded folders too. So there's a lot more control in the back end, it has to be said, on the QNAP, but that's something you would expect. This has been something that when comparing Synology and QNAP has always been very common. The fact that both of them have very different attitudes to the way you can access your files and folders, not just with things like HDMI and USB support and Thunderbolt with QNAP, but just the fact that Synology, although they want you to do things their way, they have made it in a very streamlined, chewable and easy fashion, whereas QNAP can be streamlined and chewable and friendly, though not quite as chewable and friendly as Synology, has to be said. They do give you the option to be a far more customizable, and all of these options here enable you to tinker with the AI, the QMagie core that does the work in the background, as well as changing those individual directories and more. But this is enough of the back end stuff. You want to see the software itself, so let's take a look at that now. Now, Synology Moments, again, is this lovely user interface, and there is a bit of a lag there as I scroll through these. Once again, that is my PC, not the NAS. From here, this is individual folders, individual files, all the photos being displayed on screen now. And if we look at a file such as the in-flight meal that I had while going to Taiwan and Hong Kong, the information we can pull from this photo is pretty impressive. So from here, we can find out more about the pictures itself, we can edit it, and we can find out more about, you know, the ways we can edit and change the file in the photo, and find out more information about the device that took the photo, in this case my phone, the Pixel, and the resolution, and a bit more information there. We can add additional tags if we so choose. And the tags that you have existing in PhotStation can also, not all of them, but a lot of them, be pulled over. And this is where all those files and photos are. These are all the things from Taipei and Hong Kong and all the rest of it. And if we go to the next tab, we can go into that facial recognition and subject recognition. So for photo recognition, these are the people that are inside all of those photos, and it's found all of these people. So from here, we can identify a person. So in the case of me, there I am here, and we enter my name. There's Robbie. And now all of those files that have got me in them will now be tagged with my name. In the case if there's two photos where I look slightly different in a photo, I can click there, I can start typing my name Robbie, and it will recommend that there's someone already called Robbie, and do I want to merge this, which is what I'll do, and I'll merge them. So now all the photos of me on the NAS so far will be tagged with my name, and if I need to search for me, it will then bring up all of those pictures of me that I've just sequenced. And there we are, there's all my pictures. Now, if I add new files and folders to this NAS, into those directories that the Synology Moments application is searching through, if the face of me in those photos bears striking resemblance to these, it will add those photos to this directory. You just have to remember that you either had to create a schedule where the indexing takes place maybe at 2 AM or something when you're not using the NAS, or you can trigger an automatic re-indexing of the photos as and when you choose. Now, I'm going to leave that tab there for people and move our way into subjects, because subjects are where things get quite interesting. From here, all the photos that you've got have now been catalogued in a far more user-friendly way for searching. So for example, if you're looking for food, 115 photos here were classified as food, 11 photos were tagged as selfies. In many cases, the same photo will be tagged in multiple different areas, Chinese food and dessert, because of course when I was out there's a great deal of Chinese food as well as Thai and Japanese and stuff. So obviously I ate a lot of food and I took pictures of that food. It catalogues these foods as and when. So when you're searching for food, it will come up with photos of food, which again is something that I've always found very, very impressive. about the software in general. And again, Synology Moments has been around for a year, and they've updated it and improved it in many, many ways, and how it works with things like Synology Drive and Synology Chat. These things are very, very impressive, and again, the labelling does continue into quite extensive levels. Now, after that, we can go into locations and places, and this is where a lot of the information is garnered, primarily at the moment from geotagging on photos. So if you take photos on a mobile phone, chances are in the back end there's information about where the photos were taken stored in the background. Finally, you've got the smart area where you've created smart albums and where you can make effects and edit photos, and you can change things as you go. Now, over here, we can look at QMagie. Now, first and foremost, let's knock it out the park immediately. QMagie does everything that Moments does there. I'm not going to be too repetitious about it, but I'll speed through it because I know the video's been going on a bit. There's our selections of photos, just like Moments there. On top of that, we've got the albums, and we've got people and things. However, there's also a number of things that QMagie has that Moments doesn't. For a start, if we go to that People's tab, do remember that the same photos are stored on both of these devices. It's the same, I think it was 1,250 photos, give or take, that I installed, I transferred onto this Synology NAS and this QNAP NAS. And the QNAP has managed to identify more people. So, for example, there's that Buddha. For some reason, both of them I've identified the Buddha, although it's worth mentioning that the Synology has merged them all into one tab. There have been more photos recognised on the QNAP. Now, in some cases, such as the ones involving me, it has identified me better on the Synology in just those two tabs. There's three there, so it's identified 72 photos of me. In the case of the QNAP, it's identified quite a number of photos of me that I've already added from my previous video overviewing QMagie, but this identified 73 and another 4 there. So, just like the Moment application there, if you want to add a person such as this guy, Jason, you click who is this, you put his name, you click OK, and that's it. All those photos of Jason are now catalogued. Down here, there's more photos of Jason. We click there, and we click his name. Boom, done. All of these photos are catalogued, but it's worth highlighting that the QMagie application has managed to find more pictures of me than the Synology application. And that goes in a number of ways. So, there are several photos of people in this collection that aren't present here because they were very small and in the background, and the Synology Moments application hasn't catalogued them, whereas the QNAP has. And another area where the QMagie application really impressed me, and again, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. Remember, QMagie is a great deal newer than Moments, so you have to kind of give it an advantage in that way. But at the same time, it's a beta. So if we go into the Subjects tab, this is something I found very impressive. In the Subjects tab, let's go back to that point about Chinese food. It listed dessert, it listed Chinese food, and those were dessert dumplings, little chocolate long barrel dumplings. But on the QNAP, it mentions meal, it mentions food, fast food and more. But it also identified foods. So, Bazi identified those dumplings. On top of that, and one thing that I highlighted in a previous video, if you go to the bottom, it identified individual flowers, such as hydrangeas, cherry blossoms. It identified lots more things than the QNAP, whereas the QNAP called them flowers. It called them plants. But the Synology identified them just as plants, but the QNAP identified individual plants. That's the same photo on both of these devices, but whereas the Synology called it just a flower, the QNAP identified it as both a hydrangea and it identified it in a group capacity as flowers, as plant, as forest. So the QNAP does seem to go into a great deal more detail about what it identifies. As you can see, we've got the flower tab here and it's got it. And in both of these applications, do multiple tags on different things. Likewise, in the case of the QMagie application on the QNAP, it identified things like beer. And let's face it, I won't I'm not going to lie to you, I do like a beer. But the QNAP identified 7 photos of beer, whereas the Synology identified these. What were the photos it missed? And as you can see, there's a clear difference between them in how they catalogued. If for those of you that thought they were just using the same algorithm, there's enough information here to make you wonder how the individual brands utilize that algorithm to search through those photos. I will say that as someone that has a lot of photos of at home, I've got around 15 years of photos. I'm looking forward to seeing how the new QMagie beta sequences those and just how far it gets. Now, finally, it's worth mentioning another thing that I like about the QMagie version of this photo tagging and photo cataloging, and that is that you can go to the folders tab and see folders. And again, this is real easy. This shouldn't be something I'm impressed by. It's ridiculous that I should be impressed by the fact that on the QNAP I can go to a folder level. Those folders that I selected at the top of the video using the Multimedia console, I can now access them like I would on any file management tab. I can just go straight in and just select individual folders. That is something that anyone should be able to do anyway. You shouldn't need special tabs to do that. And the fact that the Synology Moments application, for the most part, forces you to utilize a single directory for your Moments photos, it's not only a little disappointing, it's very limiting. And I'm still surprised there isn't a nice, easy way to access folders. Whereas the QMagie application gives you the ability to look at your individual photos. It gives you the ability to use that recognition and the AI deep learning support to go through people, things, subjects, and really break it down to a far more precise level, and lets you go through individual folders as you would expect from any file management tool. And all of this with that Multimedia console application letting you tinker and like really precisely sort out the folders and files that you've got there. Now, don't get me wrong, QMagie is by no means perfect. The fact that a lot of the options are in Multimedia console means that for some of you it may be a little bit finicky to go through these different options. Maybe you don't want a single portal application that lets you go through these options because you don't want to go into this kind of detail. For you, the Synology setup is going to be significantly more attractive because it's user-friendly, it's straightforward, all the hard options are hidden. It is very much the embodiment of the Synology platform, and Synology Moments does them proud. Likewise, it runs a great deal faster. I know you can't tell because of the recording here and there's slight lag due to the screen recording software I'm using, but I can tell you right now that the Moments application does seem to run that pinch quicker. But that said, QMagie is still in beta, whereas Synology Moments is, full release. So it's very hard to compare them in that way. Likewise, with Synology Moments, its integration with things like Synology Drive and Synology Chat and all those other applications cannot be understated. It's still a very good app. In terms of indexing, that's a different story because of the way these two devices index and the fact that I'm using two NASes with quite different hardware inside, it makes comparing the indexing speed a lot different. It makes it very tough to be able to compare the two and how quickly or slowly they index. But what I will highlight is that the QNAP does let you be able to change the priority of indexing. So if you want it to happen, but you want it to be done like in the background and it's not a priority, that's an option that's open to you on the QNAP and not one that's open to you on the Synology. But nevertheless, if you do own a Synology NAS or a QNAP NAS, both of these applications are phenomenal for cataloging and accessing all of your old and new photos going forward. And if you're a photo video editor, a budding NAS user, a home or business user, this will be significantly advantageous. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Synology surveillance application is utilizing a lot more deep learning in how it works, and with a new GPU enabled box, we're going to be seeing a lot of facial recognition and subject recognition on that surveillance platform. Likewise, QNAP are introducing things like QVR Face, and no doubt there will be an update to that that includes the recognition of things. Both of them are going to require significant GPU power, but it's also worth highlighting Synology at the moment only seems to be premiering that on the DVA 3219 announced very recently. Whereas QNAP have got a lot more options open to them with lots of NASes with GPU card support, as well as a lot more beefy CPUs and the likes of the Ryzen, the Xeon and more. But that's for another video. This has been QMagie versus Synology Moments, and I hope this has helped you choose the right NAS for you going forward. And once again, needless to say, if you do already own a Synology or QNAP NAS, both of these applications are phenomenal, and both of them do their respective brands very, very proud indeed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.